Hey there, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And I am back today with another incredibly insightful conversation with an indoor playground owner from Playmakers Society, which is my membership for indoor playground owners that is geared towards collaboration, resource sharing, coaching, and community in what can honestly be a very isolating and lonely industry. So I'm very excited to bring you this video today. So, in this conversation, you're going to be hearing from Alyssa Fox, who is the owner of Wiggle and Play in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And even though Alyssa has been a small business owner in her community for over 5 years now, she recently transitioned to a bigger space to house a full indoor playground facility to continue serving parents, which you're going to hear all about today. So, just to give you a little preview, in this conversation, Alyssa is going to talk about her launch process, including funding, construction, and some unexpected and unfortunate roadblocks she had to face along the way, and exactly how she navigated that. She's going to talk about childcare, her day to day, staffing her space, and how she makes it all work as a busy mom and as a very busy business owner. She's also going to dive into exactly what her business looks like today in terms of what she offers, what her revenue streams are, what she focuses on most, and where the bulk of her revenue comes from. And she's also going to give us some really exciting perspective into what's coming for her business. And she's going to talk about some future expansion plans for Wiggle and Play. I have linked all of Alyssa's business information in the video description, so definitely go and check that out. But again, this is just such a valuable conversation and full of really practical advice from Alyssa for anyone who is currently operating their indoor playground or anyone who is looking to venture into this industry. So this one is definitely a must watch. All right, let's talk to Alyssa Fox from Wiggle and Play in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi.
So I'm really excited for this conversation. Do you want to get started by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, so my name is Alyssa. I own Wiggle and Play in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Just opened up here end of January, so it's about 4 months now that we've been open, almost 4 months. But I've actually been open with businesses in this area for almost 5 years now. I had actually had a space prior to COVID with a bit different business name and a little bit different model, but it was still kind of the same goal and mission. Unfortunately, COVID happened 6 months after I had opened the space. And I also realized that it just wasn't going the way I had hoped for. So I say it was a blessing in disguise because it let me kind of realign and rethink how I wanted to go forward. Because my mission was always to be more parent focused. I really wanted to, they always say it takes a village to raise kids. So like my goal was always to how can I help parents find their village? How can I help parents feel like they're not alone? Because I mean, if you look at today's culture, we're very much individualized and a lot of stuff now that we used to have back then that we're in classes now is online. So I wanted to find a way to be able to get parents and kids together. And my space was a studio space prior to COVID. So we decided that going forward, if we wanted to really reach parents and really help parents, we knew that we had to have some aspect for kids. So that's kind of how Wiggle and Play came about, was creating a smaller indoor playground that is focused on the kids, but mainly everything else is focused on the parents and how can we make parents' life a little easier.
So I would love to elaborate on that a little bit if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you made some changes between your first location and where you are now. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you changed?
So prior to COVID, we were just a studio space. So really, we just did mostly classes and events and then birthday parties. Really wasn't, I had a few toys for kids to play with while we were doing classes or things like that. Uh, but I really didn't have anything. I had meetups, but people are like, well, what do my kids do while we're there? There's only a couple of toys. It just wasn't helpful for parents. And so going forward, we knew that we wanted to be more for kids. So now we have our cedar work set, a lot of different toys, a baby area. I mean, it's an indoor playground, but how we designed it was more focused on the parents. So where are parents going to sit? We have a nice couch. I have parents come in and go, I didn't even think you would have a couch. Most indoor places don't have a couch for parents to sit at. Like, or like just how things are set up. We purposely set it up where it's easier for parents. So parents can sit here. The Cedar Works, I made sure everything had the plexiglass. So it was no kid was going to be out of sight. You could sit and actually enjoy yourself and not have to be like, oh, where'd they go? Um, so everything we did going forward was okay, let's think like a parent when we go out and do things. What do we want for the kids? What do we want for ourselves? So that's just kind of the big ways that we changed it. And then we added more classes. I was able to find other people who were able to teach classes. I am a certified personal trainer and I specialize in prenatal and postpartum fitness. So I had the Mommy and Me Strength, my stroller burn classes that I do in the summer, and like my Groover, which is a baby wearing dance class. So I had all of those, but there was the music and movement and the our enrichment classes, as we call them, by ages. So different things like that. Now I was able to kind of bring all that in and not only service parents, but service the kids as well.
And that is definitely something that is appreciated as a parent, especially as a parent of multiple kids. So often we go to spaces, and as you said, they're completely designed for the enjoyment of the kids, which is great. But it is also nice when owners think of the comfort of the parents as well. And it certainly makes me want to go back to those places much more frequently than the places that are solely designed for the kids. So as a parent, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that you do to really differentiate yourself amongst other indoor playgrounds? And I know you mentioned that you really cater to parents, but have you done anything else with kind of that same mindset?
Um, I think the only other big difference is I will say this, I am a neat freak. I am a clean freak. My youngest has a lung disease. So part of the issue for us going other places was things were not clean to a great standard all the time. Or, things just felt gross or kids were let in sick. And I really wanted to have a space where parents could take their kids knowing that there's no kids that are obviously going to be coughing all over your kid. And like, kids that are visibly sick. And I say that because obviously kids always have runny noses, they always whatever, but like I've been to places many a times, the library or other play places where kids are very visibly sick. And I'm like, okay, now my kid's going to get sick and we're going to end up in the hospital. So I really wanted to create a space where people knew that one, we were cleaning like crazy, and two, that you weren't going to come here and expect to get sick. I mean, obviously, you can get sick anywhere you go. But that's one of the biggest things that everybody comments on is, wow, you guys are so clean. Like, I've had people say, I don't think I'd ever let my kid crawl on a floor anywhere but my own house. But here, I don't care about the kids like crawling everywhere, licking the floor because we keep it so clean.
Love that. And again, as a parent, much appreciated. It always happens where we go somewhere and one kid gets sick and then they all get sick and then it's a whole fiasco, and we don't even have, we're not impacted by the same health problems that you are. So I can only imagine what that looks like for you. And this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. So would you mind going into a little bit about how you implement your sick policy specifically? You don't have to give all the details, but how do you handle it when somebody comes in and, they're coughing or they have a runny nose? How do you tackle that? Because I know for me, that's something I always struggled with.
So thankfully, so far, we really haven't had a big deal. Like everybody has been, and I made it very clear, like, look, this is our policy. Like if you've got more than a runny nose, like you're a runny nose, you've got a fever or you've got a runny nose and the face is flushed, like they're just not feeling great. Like, please do not come in. And I've explained to them like my reasons why not only do I not want anybody else to get sick, but like my family is heavily impacted by that. So thankfully, I have not had an issue. If I were to have an issue, I would kind of just be like, hey, like I noticed, they're not feeling very well, or there's something going on. They've got the runny nose, the face flush, like it just doesn't look like they're feeling quite right. Here's a play pass to come back another day. But we also we would plan to nip it in the butt before they go in. We wouldn't even really kind of let them get past that check-in moment. But again, we really have not had a problem. And we actually had a week where We had to kind of close down for some days and like shorten our hours due to us having to be in the hospital because my little one got sick. And I think for most people in our community and all the people that come here and visit, were like, oh, she's not kidding. Like this really does affect her if like her kid gets sick. So thankfully, I really haven't had to deal with it, to be quite honest.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of that work to prevent it. It's not, I don't think it's an accident that you haven't had to deal with it that much. So I love that you are setting a really strong understanding before people even come in the door. I think a lot of people, forget about that. And again, not all of us are impacted by the same health struggles that you are. And we shouldn't have to be affected by that in order for people to respect our policies, specifically around wellness. We're in the post-pandemic world. I know a lot of people are more sensitive to that now than ever. But it sounds like kind of setting that expectation that, hey, we will ask you to leave if you come in and you're clearly not well. I think that is so important. And I think, again, that's a big reason when it comes to why you're not experiencing it. And I love the idea of giving a play pass to come back. We did the exact same thing because it felt less confrontational, right? It's easier to get them out the door because they're not feeling like they're missing out on any money spent.
Yep.
They're not feeling like they have to go through the hassle of a refund or have to ask for a refund or anything like that. I think it's a great proactive way to very kindly ask someone to visit a different day, because I know a lot of people listening probably do reservations or they're considering doing reservations. And as a parent, that's happened to me before where we sign up for something in advance and then we get sick the day of. And, I'm not one of the people who is like, oh, we're going to show up anyways because we're sick. But I know a lot of people do because, if they spend a lot of money on the ticket, I completely understand. So I love that as a business, you offer that flexibility for people to be
Yeah,
able.
I'm very much like, even with events, like if your kid ends up sick that morning, hey, you want the credit for another event or something else. I very much would rather not have kids here sick. And most parents know that. And most parents have been great. They'll be like, oh, yeah, we planned to visit last week, but I didn't know if it was allergies or what. So we just decided to stay home for the day. And honestly, I'd much rather that than someone coming in and sick and getting everybody sick. So it's worked out so far. So far.
That's great. And I think, having that on your website and letting people know, hey, if you're sick, ask for credit for something in the future. I think that's, again, it prevents a lot of those issues from happening in the first place. So I really commend you on that. It's a really difficult thing to navigate, one of the most difficult. So thank you so much for elaborating on that. So something I wanted to ask you about is I know you mentioned that you have open play, you do a lot of classes. What are some other ways you guys make money as an indoor playground business? What else do you offer?
So we have the big ones, open play and birthday parties. Those are two kind of like main things. And then we have our classes that are weekly, reoccurring. And then we have events, which those kind of change up every month. And this is a lot, I know. And our memberships. So our memberships is kind of like where we focus on a lot of those events and classes, because our memberships include those classes, they include discounts in those events, discounts in the parties. So really our goal is to hopefully get somebody on a membership and they are able to use that and really get their money's worth out of it, to be quite honest. Like our goal is to have someone join a membership and really use the space to its fullest potential. Like we want somebody that's here. We have member only events every month. We actually just did like a minute to win it night where I typically, on these member nights, I'll order food. They're typically Fridays from 5 to 7. I'll order food. We've had pizza, we've had Chick-fil-A, we've had a couple of different things. And then we have something just to do. So we've had a pajama party. Like I said, last week we had our minute to win it, which was so fun. Like we had parents. Oh, what?
What is that? I have to know more.
Okay, minute to win it. So they're like little games that you can play. So one of them is, if you've ever seen where they put the cookie on their head and they have to get it in their mouth. We did this, all the kids, all the adults. We had where you have to blow a pom pom with their own straw. Everybody gets their own straw. And then you have to blow it across the finish line. And I tell you, when all these parents got down on their bellies and we're all like slithering around on the floor, it is such a fun, like bonding moment. And that's really what I want this to be here, is a way for parents to feel like they have friends and they can have fun, not only for the kids but for themselves. I mean, the kids are playing, but it was more fun for us as parents to play these different games. And that's just really what I hope for these member events in themselves. It's just to kind of, it's my way of saying thank you for being a member and for spending so much time here. So yeah, that's kind of what I do there. But parties are the next big thing that we really try to focus on, because honestly, that's our greatest profit margin right there. And it's less work. And I like birthday parties. It's actually been a secret, not a secret, but like a hidden talent, I guess you would say, that I didn't realize I had. I thought I would want nothing to do with birthday parties. I wouldn't want to plan them. I would hire someone right away to like take over the birthday party planning. And I've actually really loved it. I love creating the mock-ups and sending them to parents and being like, hey, this is what it is. So yeah, just learning all sorts of things, even about myself.
It's funny you say that because I actually had the exact same experience. I was, I'm not a very creative person. I'm much more like business numbers minded. And I surprised myself as well by really enjoying the birthday party aspect. And sometimes I like try to go back and ask myself, was it because they were so profitable? So it was easy to enjoy something I was being compensated well for. But no, I really did enjoy it. It was, something I could do from home while my kids snapped or, something like that. It wasn't as difficult or stressful as being physically at the cafe. So I also really enjoyed that. And we had the same experience, of course, with it being our biggest revenue generator. So again, I'm sure there's some correlation between
Just
the
a
two.
little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
And then our next thing we're focusing mostly on for the summer is my stroller burn class. It's a summer only class. It's actually how I typically, last summer, before I had Wiggle and Play, I did a membership specifically for the summer where parents can join these classes. And I had, I think, like 8 or 10 of them just allowing them to do these classes in the mornings with me. So my goal to help us kind of get through this summer, because we're very seasonal here in Wisconsin, and spring and summer are worth its weight in gold being outside. So just really kind of leaning into that summer class and getting people to want to be on memberships for that summer, for the summer for that, and kind of that route and summer camps and things like that to try to help with summer, because we have definitely been feeling it here for sure.
absolutely. And May, I know we're recording this in May. I'm not sure when it's going to be released, but May was always just such a difficult month, May and September. So I completely can relate to that panic starting to set in as soon as May coming on the calendar, it was always just dreadful.
Yes.
But it brings me to something I wanted to dig a little bit deeper on. So your memberships,
Yeah.
because this is something that I obviously am very passionate about. And I think it's an absolute game changer for indoor playground businesses. So I'm sure I could find this information on your website, and I'm going to link it in the show notes or in the video description, depending on whether you're watching or listening. But can you tell me a little bit more about your membership? So I didn't catch if the classes are included or if they're discounted. Can you talk a little bit about what's included in your membership offer?
Yeah, so we actually just changed our membership model, our whole kind of play model actually. So now we used to have a basic and elite membership, where basic was really just unlimited play, and then they got discounts on events. And then we had our elite membership, which included 2 classes a week and bigger discounts on events, the membership event in the month. But we found it to be way too confusing and just honestly harder on our end. So we actually switched to just an all-in-one membership model. So that we do have the monthly unlimited play pass, but that's all it is. And now we have our one membership where it includes unlimited classes in a week. It includes 25% off our events. And then like $65 off of our parties. And then like the member events, we give like a little box to parents when they join as a membership. We do require adults to wear grip socks in here as well. We do have hardwood floors, and it's just honestly kind of slippery. And we not only is it like a safety thing, but if something happens to your kid, you want to take off and go get them, and we want to make sure that like they can do that We've already seen it in action a few times where thankfully they had grip socks on so they could get to the kid because otherwise they would have slipped. Like if I'm not wearing mine, I'll be honest, I slip everywhere. I don't know what it is about our floors. Maybe I just keep it too clean, as I was always joke.
I was going to say the same thing. I noticed when our floors were extra, extra clean, I had to put on my grip socks. We didn't require grip socks, but I always had to wear them as soon as I cleaned the floor. So you probably just keep it too clean.
But so we require them. And we know most adults don't have grip socks. So what we do, we actually have a membership box that we give to the adult that bought the membership. So it includes a pair of grip socks, it includes a Wiggle and Play t-shirt for them, and then a travel size mug. And this has honestly been a great way to market for a very low cost. Because I mean, I think this box cost me $20 max. So it's a really easy way to just market because everybody uses their travel mug and people will wear their t-shirts out. So it's been a great way to not only let the adult feel, again, like they are the focus, but also it's been a great way of advertising. And all the adults love it. They're like, yes, I'm going to wear my shirt out.
People love free t-shirts. I have seen adults do some, unspeakable things for free t-shirts at, baseball games and things like that. So I'm not that surprised. When I say free, I mean included with that first month of membership.
Mm-hmm.
So, how much do you charge for a membership?
We just moved to $85 a month for the membership. Like I said, that includes unlimited classes and member events every month, a 25% discount. So a lot of our members are people who are doing at least 2 classes a week. They're typically doing at least a class for themselves, one of the adult classes, and then a kids class. So, and then some are now going to be doing 3 because they want to do the workout classes in the morning and then come with their kids to one of like the music classes or the age-based classes. But yeah, and then like I said, all the other discounts we have. I mean, we did a glow in the dark party. We've done like paint and play. We're gonna do dinner and play at some point here, but we just do a lot of different things that we've learned to try to focus on, the things that I think are fun and cool. I tried to do some events that were similar to some of the other places around here, and I learned that it's like one, they have a million to go to that are similar, and two, those don't speak to me as much, and I don't have as much fun planning them, and I don't have you can tell when I talk about the events which ones I absolutely love. And so the difference of talking about them, people would be like, oh, that one sounds really fun. And I'm like, yeah. And so really just kind of leaning into being different than everywhere else around here and kind of doing events that aren't similar.
Think that kind of is almost a full circle moment to what you talked about in the very beginning, where, you talked about wanting to create this village and wanting to create this community. I think getting people together for regular events and having the members mingle and getting to know each other, it's just going to increase their comfort level in your space and it's going to want them, or it's going to make them want rather to keep coming back again and again. And it's going to make them want to stay members for a really long time. So I always love when a business's mission is actually reflected very clearly in their revenue streams. You would be surprised how often there is a disconnect between the things that they offer and the original business model they intended to have. Because, I'm sure you understand it's pretty easy when you're in the thick of it to stray away from your original vision. But it is very cool to see that you have really stayed true to your values and you're giving your community exactly what you wanted. So I hope you're so proud of yourself.
I am. Honestly, I've had really great feedback too from people. I mean, I had a member who was here the other week and she goes, I told my husband over my dead body would I give up my membership because she goes, I literally just sat here and took the biggest breath and I feel the most relaxed I felt all morning. She was like, I will never give up my membership. And I've had, other members who are like, I don't know how you create this. I don't know how you like all these different people come in and everybody's just they get along, even though we all have different like parenting styles or different things, but like we all come here and, we're all helping with each other's kids. We're all doing this. And I was like, well, part of that is like, that's something we try to show as soon as you guys come into the door. Like we will help hold a baby. We will help keep an eye on a child while you take another one to the restroom. Like we really try to make sure that it's not just the people coming in the door that are part of the village. Like we as me and my employees, like we are part of that village as well. And we want to make sure that everybody feels that coming in. And I feel like it kind of trickles down and everybody feels that coming in. And so far I've heard great things. Obviously I can't make everybody happy. But for the most part, I would say 99% of the people I've come into contact here absolutely love it. And they love just feeling the way they do as a parent and being able to feel relaxed and feel like they can take a deep breath and they're not alone when they're here.
Well, that is amazing. And I'm so glad that your community has really taken to what you've put out there. So congratulations. But
Thank you.
kind of taking a
Yeah.
turn, because we know it's not all butterflies and rainbows in this industry. Well, first, before we kind of get there, I kind of wanted to ask a little bit about your team. So you do have employees. So can
Mm-hmm.
you talk a bit about how many employees you have and what role you really play in the business?
Oh, that's a hard question. So I do have three employees right now. I have one who is here Wednesdays and Fridays, and she teaches my enrichment classes. She actually had like a preschool and teacher background. I purposely hired her because one, I loved her. I thought she was amazing, and I loved her background. Her background applied for what I wanted to do. My other one, she is specifically here just on Mondays to teach the music and movement. She was an elementary music teacher. So she comes in and teaches that and helps me on Monday. And then I actually just hired another person who she was a member. Well, she is still a member. Um, and she has a background in marketing. So she is now on like helping with all of our marketing. She helps me on Thursdays now, but she also is doing a bulk of our marketing, helping that kind of get in order because I'll be honest, not my strong suit. And it has gotten to be a mess. Not a mess, but just I can't keep up with it all with trying to be here every day, as well as, trying to do the day-to-day activities of paying bills and keeping on top of everything and planning for future. So she is getting on that. We are looking to hire another person for our weekends, which will most likely be another member of mine, actually. I have found that one, all of these are moms. I have found that one, moms are way more patient and understanding when parents come in the door. And two, they they get it. They get what it's like to be a parent. So I feel like they have way more empathy when parents come in and parents can come in and you can tell either they've had the worst morning and I say all the time, either the parents are coming in because they've had the worst morning and they just need their kids to go play and they need a minute to themselves, or they're coming in because they've had a great day and they're just wanting to have a fun day. Um, and I feel like parents, us as ourselves, kind of can see that right away, and we can have that knack of being like, "Hey, how's your morning going?" "Oh yeah, nope, I feel that." Like there's that understanding there. And I also do things a little bit different. I actually allow my employees to bring their kids in with them, which I know doesn't always work, and it takes a very different kind of mom who wants to do that. But I would rather have the right person who really believes in the mission, really wants this place to succeed, and not have to have childcare be an obstacle. We all know how childcare is today. And so I don't want that to feel like I can't have a job because I can't pay somebody to watch my kid, or like I don't I don't know how to make that work. Um, Thankfully, so far it's been wonderful and it's worked really great. I am just trying to figure out what my role is at this point, besides being the day to day person and planning everything. So we're starting to get into the groove of, this person does everything for the website. This person does, all my marketing. This person does this. So right now, I'm still figuring it out of what exactly my role is in everything, because my role would be everything. So I'm trying to take a step back and really um, delegate and learning that also my employees can do things a lot better than I can. So letting them play to their strengths.
Absolutely. And correct me if I'm wrong, I was just peeking over at your website, but you have a coffee bar, but you don't have a full cafe, right?
No, unfortunately, rent here is very, very expensive. And we had tried to find a space that was big enough that could have a cafe. But one of our biggest obstacles with starting to was um, the ability to get the money, get the loan that we needed. Thankfully, I we found a loan officer, and I hate to say it, but it was a woman, it was a mom. And first time she read that business plan, she was like, oh my goodness, yes. And she did everything she could to make sure we got the loan, to make sure, everything went through in the end and that we were good. We ended up having some issues where our construction project doubled. We went from a $50,000 project to a $100,000 project just about overnight because of the city. And she was like, okay, let's figure this out. Like she was very helpful in making sure that that didn't affect our loan that we were getting and helping us kind of figure out how we can get that loan and still be within the parameters we had to be for the SBA loan. Um, so that was also part of the problem. We just couldn't get the money we needed to have that bigger space. So we ended up going a smaller space, and we figure the plan is if we can get through this summer and then kind of see where things are this next winter, we would like to move to a bigger space and have that cafe added on. But mostly the bank just wanted to see those numbers because we didn't have much to be able to go off, especially in this area. So they were like, we don't see how this can be profitable. So that is our goal. And then the space that we have currently would actually, the plan is to turn it into a play school for 2 to 6 year olds. So it'd be kind of like that childcare aspect that we actually have a huge issue here in town. There's not enough daycares or childcare areas, and not a lot of them that are based like play based or anything like that. So we would love to make this area into like a permanent play school, um, and then be able to run the cafe out of the other one. So
I love
that
that.
was the
And
plan.
I like having those two separate spaces because as I'm sure you know, it's very hard to run, childcare concurrently with open play, concurrently with, all of these other things you have going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really cool that you're planning, hopefully to have two spaces. But one of the reasons I brought up the cafe is one
Yeah.
of the upsides of not having a cafe is having that flexibility with your employees. We
Yes.
It's something I would have really liked to do, but we just could not do it with how many drinks we had to make with our insurance. They said absolutely no kids are allowed to be with any employees because of the, equipment that we had to operate. So I actually think right now it just offers you that option where I think a lot of people maybe wouldn't have that or it just wouldn't be realistic. So I'm glad to hear that that part is working
Yeah.
out right now with your employees and especially in an area with a lot of childcare issues.
Yeah. And I mean, the plan was originally with the cafe, we would still let parents have kids, but it would be like the parents who were working behind the cafe and then the parent who was handling kind of the check-in, the play area. That would be kind of parent that helps kind of monitor the kids and help with the kids. A lot of people tend to joke, me and my employees have a really good co-parenting relationship because if one's busy doing something, we're handling each other's kids and we kind of go back and forth very easily. I don't know how it worked out that way because we didn't know each other before I hired her. Um, it just kind of worked out. And like I said, I know that's kind of luck too. Uh, but I do think a lot of it comes down to my expectations. I made it very clear, like, hey, you're allowed to bring your kids, but this is what I expect of you of this job. And this is what I expect for how your kids to act while they're here. And, you know, kind of those expectations. I'm very upfront with what I expect from anybody, the customers, my employees, anything like that. So there's no surprise when I'm like, hey, this isn't working out.
I love that. And I'm so glad that it's working out for you. And that's one of the reasons I love doing these interviews because, we all have such a different way of running our businesses. We have different experiences, we have different perspectives. So it's so great to hear that this is working for you, even though, it might not be other people's
No,
cup of tea. I know my kids were absolutely feral at, the younger age and it just didn't work out for me. So it's good to
no, you're
hear.
good.
hear, like I said, different perspectives. Especially, again, I was lucky enough to have limited childcare. We actually hired somebody from the cafe to help me with childcare, but again, we had to do it in our home. So I consider myself very lucky and privileged in that regard. And I know not everybody has access to that childcare. And I know there's a
Mhm.
shortage in many areas. So again, it's really great to hear that you've been able to provide that refuge for your staff and create that welcoming, kind of understanding and collaborative environment. So thank you so much for sharing that. But
Sure.
um, one thing that I, didn't want to skip over, I kind of
Yeah.
alluded to it before, is, this business is difficult, right? There's no skirting around it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to ask about, I know you said that something that you came across when you were opening is your budget doubling. Was there anything else in the startup process that really surprised you, or were there any other, kind of roadblocks that you had to overcome that were unexpected?
Yeah. So the biggest thing was, of course, our just getting the money that we needed, the loan that we needed to be able to do this. We had some money saved and we had, some other things that we were able to pull from, but we just obviously didn't have enough. So construction was a big one, and that actually was due to the city. Um, and it was a fluke situation that we just happened to got caught in. The commercial, what do you call it? The commercial inspector quit, retired. I don't even remember what it was, but they were gone. So then the residential was trying to fill in, and he didn't quite know what the rules were. And so I ended up spending a lot of time in code being like, no, we're allowed to do this because of XYZ. And we went back and forth for like 3 months. And it was a lot of, we had our architect draw up plans, send it in. Oh, well, you need 2 bathrooms. Okay. Draw up a new plan with 2 bathrooms, send it in. Oh, well, you need a second door. And I'm like, okay. Like I eventually, and it sucks because I hate to be that person, but I had to call our city. I had to call our alder person. And I was like, hey, look, like I get he's new, he doesn't quite understand, but like this is very hindering to any small business that comes in. Like I have to pay an architect every time I have to go back and do these drawings when he didn't tell me the first time that that was wrong. Like there should, like I don't understand how there's not like a checklist of like do of all the different things before they send back what is wrong with the space. And so it was like 3 or 4 months of back and forth of that. And nobody else has really had this issue. It was just I got caught with the new person who was just trying to hold the fort down. Um, Thankfully, I will say my contractor was absolutely amazing. He held everything together. I mean, I've worked with him before. I've worked with his wife. His wife actually owns the children's boutique downtown here. So like, thankfully, we had a really good relationship in this and going in, and he'd be like, do you want the bad news or the good news first? And he handled a lot of that for me. There was a lot of memes going back and forth in our text messages. But it, I, as much as all of that was, I am very lucky that I had a contractor who handled the bulk of it for me, and who really went to bat for me and helped me through a lot of that stuff. And also really kind of helped me figure out cost wise what I needed and what I didn't, and how can he help, lessen that cost for me. Because there's not a lot of contractors out there that will do that. They're like, okay, this is what it is. And he very much would go back and forth with me and try to help me find what was the most cost effective thing to do, especially when we went from a $50,000 budget to $100,000 budget overnight. So, but yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had a really great team supporting you, and I think that's so important. A lot of people choose vendors just on a whim, or it's the first Google search result they get, when it comes to their loan officer or their contractor or their architect. So I love that you were very thoughtful in that process and you look for people, I know at least in terms of your loan officer, whose values aligned with your own. And it sounds like, it really helped you along the way. So I'm glad that you put a lot of intention into that process because most people don't.
Yeah, that is like the one biggest piece of advice I give anybody is just make sure, be slow, take your time, make sure you have the right people in your corner. I will say the only reason I've gotten to this point so far is because I have the right people in my corner helping me and supporting me. Had I chosen a different contractor that I didn't feel that maybe would have given me a lower cost up front, but I knew I just didn't feel that feeling with, um, I don't think I would be here. And I think if I didn't have the other business owners that I've been doing this for about almost 5 years now. This summer will be 5 years that I've kind of been in this community of business owners, and being able to rely on those resources I can get from them and the feedback I can get from them. If I was kind of going into this blind and didn't make those relationships and didn't take the time to learn which way I wanted to go, I wouldn't be here right now. Like I will fully be honest. Like there's no way I would have gotten to this point without making sure I had the right people in my corner.
So lucky that you have that. Our area was very unique, I think, in that we didn't have a lot of collaboration between small business owners. And that's actually one of the reasons why I created the Playmaker Society community. It was called something different way back when, but
Yeah.
that's why I created it, because I wanted to share ideas and I wanted to collaborate and I wanted to, be able to share resources and things to help make everyone's lives easier. But my town did not have that same sentiment. They did not share that attitude. So I'm so glad that you're able to have it locally and inside of the group. So it's kind of like a twofold. You sound very lucky in that regard.
Yes, I think that is one of the great things about our community is it's kind of a larger community, but it's still very much almost has that small town feel. And so I'm very lucky I have, and I always say this, like my network of business owner friends here in town are great for, advice that works within our town. But then I also have the Playmaker Society, which really helps me kind of dig into that niche of like the playground aspect of it. And so I'm very lucky to have both. And I work very closely with a lot of different places here in town to, do anything, whether that's events or like me and the children's boutique, we're doing a mompreneur meetup networking event together at the end of the month. And so she was like, hey, I don't know very many business owners. I know you probably know a ton. And also you are the one that loves to do events. And I was like, oh yeah. And I went off and I was like, let's do this. And she was like, yep, see, this is why I messaged you. And so just being able to have that here again, but that goes with my mission, like building that village and especially supporting moms who want to do something but don't know how to go about it because I see it so often. We have moms who stay home with their kids, but they have desires to do other things. And I just really want moms to feel holistically well. I don't know how else to say that, but
No, I
I just want them
understand.
to feel, yeah, I don't know how else to explain that, but like just feeling like their own person as well as being a mom.
Well, I love that. And I love that you have that local collaboration because I do think it's very, very important. And again, you're super lucky and I am jealous. But
So,
one other thing I wanted to ask before, I asked you about your future and your growth and things like that. Because I know you mentioned that, one of the things you struggle with day to day is managing childcare and things like that. Are there any other things that surprised you, not in terms of launching the business, but in terms of the day to day that are harder than you expected or different than you expected? I just always love asking this question because it's always different for everyone.
um, outside of like childcare and day to day doing everything, I would say honestly, just sometimes some of the things people say to me. Um, and the over like for me hearing the same thing over and over again or hearing the same questions over and over again, sometimes it gets very like it's all on the website, it's all on like social media, it's every like if you just take 2 seconds and look, like it's there, I promise. So for me as someone who is in it day to day to day, um it can get very overwhelming and some days I just don't have the patience for it. But thankfully I have the best employees ever who like when they're here, I try to take a step back. So we're working on where I take a step back and they really handle the bulk of it. So I don't anymore. And just it's kind of funny because sometimes people will say things to me and my employees are like, there's no way. Like I've never heard anybody say that, but they'll say it to me because I'm the owner. And now they're starting to hear some of the things people say to me. They're like, "You're not kidding." They like people really just have no filter when they talk to you, and I'm like, "No, they don't." So it's just dealing with like some of the I know it's well-meaning a lot of the times, but sometimes I'm just like, nope, that's not going to be how this goes. So it's just kind of dealing with that and dealing with all the different personalities and trying to handle it in a manner where it's not like my patience is running thin and me taking something out on them that they didn't need. It wasn't their thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's really one of the only downsides of forming, the type of environment that you have, something that feels very collaborative and like a community. Some people can feel very entitled to your business. So I know that's so difficult to navigate, and I'm sure you're going to figure it out. But something I wanted to mention, I know you had to miss our group call yesterday inside of Playmaker Society, but we talked about that specifically a lot. And
Oh yeah.
very smart people shared some really good tips on setting boundaries and dealing with those difficult personalities as, introverts as extroverts. I think we talked about it for like 25 minutes. So, just me speaking to you personally, that's a recording I wouldn't want to miss because it's a common problem. And it's something that I think we all face. And it's something that, again, like you said, it was very shocking to me. I didn't think that it was going to be quite that overwhelming of all the things I knew I was going to have to manage every day. I didn't think it was going to be, like you said, 50 messages with the same question, having to just direct people to the website and having people ask for favors and having people, oh, I saw you at the grocery store one time, or, oh, my gymnastics with your kid one time. Can I have a birthday party or something like that? It becomes a lot to manage, especially when you position yourself as, a community. So again, I think that conversation will be really helpful. It's something that
Definitely
a
was the
lot
rest of that.
through right now. But
Yeah.
um, so now that we kind of got through the hard stuff,
Yeah.
what are your plans? I know you talked about, potentially growing into another space and adding a play school. Is there anything else kind of on the horizon?
Really, that's our big thing. Like we want to grow the space a little bit bigger. That this was never, like I said, this was never fully our dream. This was just what we could do in the moment, and we knew that we wanted to get started. I mean, I have been in this process of trying to find a space for 2 years, and trying to get that funding for 2 years. So we decided, okay, let's just take a step back. Let's focus on what I really wanted to be the bulk of it, which was the classes and the events and the memberships. So getting that really good, um, just feeling, there's so many things to work out when you start. So just kind of getting all those kinks worked out and then moving to a bigger space and adding on a cafe and then being able to add on that cafe side because I would also like to have like a kitchen that bakers and other people can rent out on nights that we're not open or weekends or something. Um, there's a whole other business aspect of that side that I wanted to have. So we're just trying to figure out this before we add on another one. Um, and then move this to a play school, which is we're kind of testing out with our summer camps, and we're going to start doing a few drop off things that we're allowed to do. Finally got the green light for those. So we're going to start testing out some of those things slowly here. So then when we do feel like we've got a good base to kind of move to a bigger space, we're able to, everything's kind of in its place already. So we're just trying to be proactive in what our future plans are right now.
And I love that you are kind of mastering one aspect before moving along to another. Again, I think it's, something that a lot of people skip. And while I don't think it's necessarily, crucial in all situations, I do think it's so helpful when you're able to do it that way. A lot of people bite off more than they can chew, and they end up doing, 20 things at, 20% instead of doing one thing at 100%. So it's really cool to see that you are, like I said, really living what you envisioned, and now you're looking to add on when the time is right. So I think that's really smart.
We just want to get through summer first, see how that goes, kind of be able to make a plan for the next year. Because like I said, we didn't open up. We originally were planning on opening in November. We didn't open up until January. So we're just kind of all of our plans on how we were going to kind of monitor everything for the first year kind of shifted. So we're just trying to make sure we get through summer, see how winter goes, kind of see what we can plan from there and for the next summer. And then we were able to kind of make decisions from that. But yeah.
So, for anyone who is listening who is maybe considering this industry or is, maybe in the beginning process, do you have any advice for them other than, having the right people in your corner, which you already talked about?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's the biggest thing. I will say finding the right people within your niche and also like within your community. Um, there's so much you can get from like there's so much I get from the Playmaker Society that a lot of it, yes, is great and I can bring here, but there are some things that I can get feedback from my community of business owners and people that are like, I can see how that would work there, but maybe not here. So having being able to have both of that is the biggest, I mean, that's the biggest thing I can ever tell. And I tell everybody that too, no matter who they are. Any friends ask me about a business, I go find that group of people, that community that's in that niche. So like I have a baker that works with me on, she does at home. She's the one who makes all my cupcakes and everything. She wants to own a bakery. She wants to open a brick and mortar bakery. And I said, you need to find a group of people who that is their niche. They can help give you guidance on exactly what you need or advice on what their process looked like opening as a bakery because there's only so much I can give you opening as a playground. Like everything's very different. So that's the biggest piece of advice I give anybody who ever asks me anything.
Yes, I can only speak to this industry, but it is so highly nuanced. There are so many things that are counterintuitive that, really surprised me, like we were kind of talking about. So I'm sure it must be true for every industry. So I think that's really great advice. But I know you have a lot of exciting things coming. Very happy to, again, kind of revisit your story thus far. And I wish you all the best. And I just wanted to say thank you for your time today. So if we want to continue learning about your business and following along, where can we do that?
The best place is honestly Facebook. That's where a lot of our stuff goes. And it's Facebook at Wiggle and Play. We are in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I don't think there's any other Wiggle and Plays, but just in case. But yeah,
I'm going to link that as well as your website in the show notes or in the video description. But again, thank you so much for your time. And maybe we'll do an update when you are living your expansion plans. We're going to manifest it.
hopefully. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up my conversation with Alyssa Fox from Wiggle and Play. Again, I've linked all of Alyssa's business information in the video description if you want to check that out. And if you want to learn more about Playmaker Society or any of my other programs, I have linked all of that information in the video description as well. All right, have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.